Now guys, I know that I have said previously that I took a piece of firewood and turned it into something on my lathe, but I was literally cutting this piece of black oak up to fit into my wood stove, and I saw this big checked out knot and thought filling that with epoxy and turning this into some kind of platter might be kind of a neat project. Not only that, it might be a little more inside my skill level at this point. I've got some new tools to try. I've got some epoxy. I think I'm going to mount this up on a faceplate. These cracks go all the way through. So what I want to do is get the bottom side surfaced and nice and clean, and then epoxy everything that needs epoxy before I start turning. And that way it won't come apart on me, hopefully. Now this side has a lot more cracking in it, so I'm going to make this the top, and that way the more solid side on the bottom will have more structure to it when it's all said and done. So I'm going to lay out a circle here. Phone's ringing. I may have to trim this down some more, or maybe not. Okay, let's see here. Whoa. Looks like about 460 RPM to start. All right, well, we're round. Now let's get flat. Man, this was going to be the bottom because it was more solid, but there's a ton of cracks in the bottom too. Well, we'll fix that with epoxy. Getting close. So my intention here is to make a nice flat spot that's a little bit recessed, and then I'm going to glue a waste block on there because this thing won't be thick enough to put a tenon or a mortise on. So I'm going to just flatten that off real nice and glue a block on, and then that'll help keep the epoxy in when I glue from the other side as well. Alright, well, I just put a fresh burr on my gouge. Needs to come down the center a little bit more, but man, that's making me nervous. So we're basically going to have a dish. I hear you. About 1.5 inches. Well, it'll probably only end up being 1 inch deep. But it is what it is, and I think it's going to be kind of neat. I think I'm going to trim this up. Glue it on. I should be able to center this up in my tailstock with some hot glue on here and glue it to the bottom side of my bowl. Now, I've never tried this, but I've seen it done a lot, so it must work. Well, while that's curing, I think I want to work on the shape of the bottom side a little bit more. And this right here is a little bit soft, so I might try and take just a little bit of that out. Well, I guess I'll do some sanding on this. Well, I've sanded up through 240 grit, so I think I want to flip this around and take the faceplate off. And then I just kind of want to true up the top side. Maybe I'll take a little bit out and then get ready for some epoxy. I put just a slight little chamfer on that so it'll fit the jaw nice. I'll go ahead and run the tailstock for now, just in case that glue isn't 100%. And I'll go nice and easy. There is some really crazy figuring going on around this knot. If I pull this off, it's going to be a pretty epic piece. I'm just going to take this down just a little bit more, and then it's going to be time for some epoxy. Famous last words. Well, I'm not sure where my camera shut off, but I've got 3 holes left from my screws, and I can't quite seem to get out of them. I'm still almost an inch thick here, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do my epoxy work, and I'll just fill those in, and then hopefully they're not so deep that I can't turn them out. But I think it's time to mix up some epoxy. Well, I took my pick tool and I cleaned out the soft wood and whatever I could in these cracks to kind of open them up for the epoxy. I've got some bark inclusions that I also want to soak, some other minor defects, but there is a lot going on in this piece of wood. There is crazy figuring. I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera until I get it finished, but this thing is going to be epic. And I'm almost through my screw holes here, so I should be able to get some epoxy down in there, turn those holes out, and have a nice little platter. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but I've got a mixture of graphite and purple. I don't think that's coming through, but trust me, it's cool. The torch pops all the bubbles, plus it helps to liquefy it, so this will seep down into the cracks a little bit better. I don't know if it's coming through on the camera yet, but that sure looks neat. Wish I had a pressure pot. Alright, well, today is Wednesday. I'm going to give this a couple days. I'll probably come back to it Friday afternoon. And I will get to try out my new carbide tools to trim out this epoxy. So we'll see you on Friday. Alright, well, it is Friday and this epoxy is set up nice and it looks amazing. I can't wait to get this turned. I'm going to get this back on the lathe and break out the new carbide tools and give them a try. Now, I did end up with one little leak, epoxy leak through the cracks. I did catch it with this tape, so hopefully I didn't get too much epoxy into the chuck jaw itself and glued that sucker on there good, but oh, I can see some epoxy there. Well, we'll get her out. Alright, well, I'm mounted up. I've got my new round carbide set up, and I'm ready to start turning. All right, well, I'm sanded up through 220, and I can see a couple of air bubbles and some minor voids that the epoxy missed. So I'm gonna give this a quick wipe with some denatured alcohol, and then probably just use some CA glue to fill in those little gaps. But let's have a look at this. Oh man. Oh, it looks like I still have one screw hole. Dang it. Well, that's staying. All right, well, I'm going to take this off the lathe and fill in these couple spots. There's just a couple of little bubbles. I don't think I'm going to worry so much about the minor cracks. If I'm being honest, I don't really see the purple in that epoxy either, but it might show itself once I get a finish on it. I think that's about it. Put it back up and finish sanding. I'm put some 320 on, and that's about as far as I'm going to go, because that's about, I've got 320 and then I've got 600. Well, and I also need to sand this lip. Well guys, I'm going to wipe this down one more time, and then it's time for some Rubio. Now I get asked quite a bit if Rubio monocoat is food safe, and the answer is yes, it is. I think we got a winner chicken dinner on this one. Got a little bit of everything. Some cracked knots, some spalting. Ooh, and I think I can see the purple now. All right, I'm going to let that set for a few minutes and then polish it up again and figure out how I'm going to detach my waste block. This is making me beyond nervous. I think I'm going to try and saw that thing off of there. With a 100-year-old handsaw. Well, I don't have this thing secured on here very well. I'm going to finish the rest of this with the palm sander. And it'll be time for show and tell. Well guys, I think this came out pretty nice. I'll have some glamour shots at the end of it. I don't even know if you can see this. I can't tell where my camera is shooting because the screen's broken, but the bottom's a little bit of a mess. The hot glue got into the cracks, and so I could epoxy that, but I am going to sign this with my laser, but that's coming up. I have something new showing up soon that I think you guys will be interested in. But yeah, there is a lot of crazy grain that I'm going to try and capture in the photos, but well, it's nice to have one not fly apart on me, which is critical because I'm going to be making a bowl to donate to my children's school for a fundraising auction. And the piece that I'm going to be turning is this English walnut crotch. And it's massive. And yeah, that's coming up real soon. I gotta have this ready pretty soon. Well guys, that's gonna do it for this one. I appreciate you watching. I've got another piece of wood sent to me by viewer John that I'm gonna be turning soon. And like I said, I'm gonna do that big bowl for the kids' school. So stick around. I got a lot more coming up. We'll see you soon.